Hello. So we all understand that data for the sake of it is not the point, and it becomes powerful when it's integrated into the business decision-making processes, whether they are automated through marketing tools or whether they inform human business decisions. So the four distinguished speakers that follow are going to share their vision on how data can be used to empower decision makers, especially in a business context that used to be where decisions were made based on guts and less on data. So let me welcome Todd Cullen, the Chief Data Officer of Ogilvy, Catherine Ryband, the Chief Solution Officer and co-founder of Datorama, Nathan Barling, the Chief Data and Technology Officer of iProspect, and Sean O'Neill, the VP Marketing, Data and Analytics at Unilever. And I must say, the five of us, we are really, really impressed by the theater and how great it is. None of us have ever presented a business presentation in such a beautiful place. So we decided to do a selfie with you in the background saying, hey. So we are going to do it. Please help us having a great selfie and wave your hands.
Give us some movement back there.
Okay, hold on.
Here we go. I can't see everybody. Come on, come everybody in. In.
There you go.
You're too low.
Got it.
Thank you.
You were terribly enthusiastic.
So, Ted?
Yes.
Todd, sorry, Todd. It's your turn.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm a musician, and usually when I'm on a stage like this, I'm playing a guitar, so I feel a little bit naked and vulnerable now. Okay. Hey, thank you for, what a great event, right? Unbelievable. Last year was my first time in Sevilla. I joined Ogilvy about 18 months ago. I was at Acxiom. We've talked a lot about Acxiom this week. There's the Acxiom booth right over there, the box. I was there for about 10 years and was a consultant for a while and led data products for a while, and joined Ogilvy as Chief Data Officer, the first Chief Data Officer, according to Ogilvy. So if you know Ogilvy, we're a little bit different than most of the firms in the presentation list this week. We are one of the world's largest creative agencies. I am the data guy in a creative agency, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means in terms of business value as well. Ogilvy is 26,000 people, 435 offices, a couple of billion in revenue. We work very closely with some of the firms that you've heard from this week, like Xaxis and Group M and others, and we're all part of the WPP family. So one of the things that we launched our global data practice last October. It's called Ogilvy AMP. I'm noticing the clock is not started either. Is that okay? Does that mean I have, okay, now we're serious. Now we're serious. So we launched our practice about 6 months ago or so, and in response to our clients who are asking new questions of us around business value. So one of the things that we've heard from our clients, as the world's largest creative agency, one of the world's largest creative agencies, these are some of the questions that clients are asking us today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about today and where we see things going in the future around business value. So there's nothing surprising about anything on this list. This is what a large integrated marketing communications agency does, right? I have found myself and my team, we found ourselves tightly integrated with creatives and planners and people who are not like us as data people in this room. So this is sort of the view of what we do today. We are mapping our data and analytics and technology expertise into these areas today because these are the questions clients are asking us today. And specifically, one of the things we're doing, working with several of the partners here today, integrating third-party data, social data into our planning process. And we can talk more about that offline, but that's been an interesting experience as well. But during this time, I just want to talk about three things very quickly. The first one is my assertion, our assertion, that marketing actions, and we've talked a lot about marketing actions this week, impressions, views, so on and so forth, those are not the same as business decisions. The brief for this session is about how data drives business decisions. So we'll talk a little bit about the difference we see between those two concepts. And secondly, the unasked question. And we've gotten to it the last couple of hours or so. We started talking about people and consumers and customers. We've started to shift even in the course of today away from cookies and device IDs as enablers to the actual person. We think that's a good trend going forward. And then finally, I'll show you a case study. Unfortunately, I can't name the client, but I'll show you a work in progress case study where we're tying together marketing actions with the business value with a new tool that we've developed internally. So let's go. Business decisions, and I like the way Andreas and Frederick stated the brief here in terms of what are agencies doing to help clients drive business decisions with data. Now, certainly everyone here is a data expert. I don't have to tell anyone that. Everyone here has already segmented the audience multiple times, as have I. But those are really, in our view, those are actions that marketers take and that we take on behalf of marketers to drive activity. Media buys, even segmentation systems, and even things like optimization and planning after the fact into the next cycle. Those are all great marketing actions. These, and this list here, these peaks here, this is where we see clients going as a next phase around using data to drive these business decisions with these metrics. So I should take an informal survey. How many of you are working with your clients and having discussions about metrics like EBITDA and earnings per share and revenue, certainly revenue on a campaign level, cash flow, enterprise value, market value of the firm? Those are difficult to map to from a marketing perspective. Not impossible, but difficult. And certainly we've seen some attribution challenges here already. It's not these metrics. As much as I'm a fan, and I know we all are, we work with far too many clients, and they are frustrated, and we are frustrated with the over-reliance on metrics like likes and shares and comments. Even engagement is still a proxy that we're sort of happy with that seem to indicate something that we're not exactly sure ties to real business value. Again, beyond the context of a particular campaign. So we have, at Ogilvy, we have started to build some concepts around total customer value. Now, everyone here, and certainly everyone in graduate school and in your days as a young data-driven marketer, built lifetime value models, right? Customer lifetime value models. Everyone knows the equation. I was tempted to put it up here, but I'm from a creative agency, so I can't put too many numbers on slides. So this equation that we're working on right now, we're actually mapping this to these business results that we talked about a couple of minutes ago. And beyond that, we're actually mapping this score, the Ogilvy Total Customer Value Score that we're concepting as we speak, not only to business value, but also across the agency planning, strategy and planning, and media buying and optimization cycles. This is the unnamed client in the U.S. we're working with today, a retail client. And this is a tool that we've started building internally that starts to tie together metrics along with business value. And I'll show just a little bit of this with the rest of the planning cycle. So this is a a view of revenue composition. Everyone's seen something like this before, right? As we slide across the revenue, I don't have a live demo, unfortunately. As we slide across the revenue section there, it certainly shows total revenue percent of coupons for this particular marketer and the number of purchases. So this is interesting. We're not quite there yet. Whoa. Okay. This is an interesting concept here that we're using the total customer value score around high definition personas. Many clients we're working with today, particularly FMCG side, as well as retail, this is retail, are building personas. And a lot of you are probably working with clients building personas based on old data, panels, surveys, technographics, and other data sources. We think those are good. We're using third-party real-time data to build what we're calling these high-definition personas, and we're also using the total customer value score to inform those personas. Now, as you know, personas are a key part of the agency planning process, along with content. So we're also separately piloting a concept called dynamic content. And we saw some of our friends yesterday actually making real-time content, data-driven content. We would call that dynamic content. And here we're using data to drive different pieces of creative work in different channels, testing in real time and adapting. What we like about this tool, and again, this is a prototype. You can ask me later about licensing. I'll be happy to talk to you about that. This is data-driven insight. So one of the key challenges we have as an agency is the human-machine interaction. We're a creative agency. I may have mentioned that. We have people who like to use the data and interpret the data and drive insights from the data. This is helping us bridge the gap between humans and machines. This is not, some people have called this programmatic insights. I was hoping not to use the term programmatic, but there it was. So this is very interesting in that it actually drives recommendations and business decisions. This is where we're starting to tie this to business value as well. It's an ambitious, whoa. Well, I guess it's time for, the last slide was, I just hit it once, I promise. I think before today, certainly we relied on a measurement framework as a way to prove the value of our work, right? And now I'm not doing anything. There it is, right there. Measured of media, right? This is everything that's measurable is not meaningful. I think we're starting to see that now. Today, we're talking about data-driven marketing actions. That's been the whole conference up till this point. I think where we're starting to head now is around total customer value-driven business decisions. And I am out of time. Thank you.
I would just like to ask you a question. You talked about this case of total customer value in retail. Can you also do it for businesses like Unilever who don't sell directly?
We would love to. We've been talking about this. Honestly, I think there's a great use case in FMCG in the sense that you don't have a lot of first-party data and transactional data. And a lot of the interest we've seen early on has been retail, certainly, because there is a lot of data, as well as B2B buyers. Certainly influence is a huge part of this. And FMCG relies a lot on influencers and social media data. And I think the point here is to tie together and fill in some gaps where the gaps exist. This approach obviously drives a whole new approach to the data ecosystem. We're working with about 300 data suppliers today, and we'd like to see that ecosystem grow even more to fill in gaps that exist in particular industries.
Thank you. Nathan and Catherine.
Thank you. We built Datorama. Let me just check that this works. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. So we built Datorama a few years ago to help marketers get control over their performance data. Because today, data-driven decisions are really an expectation. And they're an expectation that is fueled by two different things. If I am Nathan's client, and I ask him a question about my performance data in marketing, I will expect him to have the answer immediately. Because, quite frankly, it didn't really take me that much time to send an email. So why would it take that much time to get an answer? Because shouldn't you have the data at hand, and shouldn't you have the answers? So that is actually posing a challenge in marketing. And that challenge is around three different dimensions. One is the variety of data that you're confronted with today as a marketer. The explosion of ad management platforms that you're using in any cross-channel program is actually really staggering today. And the logic between all of these platforms and how complex it is to actually get a picture of your performance in between all of those, really hard to do. Volume is obviously a problem. We're not going to go over that. We know we all confronted with that every day. The velocity of the data, the fast sort of pace at which I, marketer, am expected to make decisions and to optimize my programs today is really, really different than what it was a few years in the past. And also, as a marketer, I am expected within my organization to have those answers at hand as well. I'm really expected to be accountable. Actually, this is an article from the Harvard Business Review recently that has sort of pegged accountability, which you see highlighted 4 times in the finishing paragraph, as being a larger challenge for marketers than creativity today. Now, in order to sort of live up to that challenge as a marketer, it's really paramount to get control over the data. Because of the 3 challenges that we sort of went over, the velocity, the volume, the variety of the data, the traditional cycle of going to a technical group, saying, so this is what I would need you to solve for me in terms of looking at my performance, getting the technical group to develop something. Now you're 3 months later. It might or might not be exactly what you needed. You do another iteration. You're 3 months later again. Now everything has changed in my campaigns. I might be using different ad management platforms. The structure of my campaigns might have changed. So what I really need is, as a business user, be in control of my data. It's all about data democracy and having a single version of the truth across the entire organization. I'm going to pass on to Nathan, who will sort of run you through concrete examples of how that works for an organization.
Oh, thank you. So I think one of the biggest issues that we have is, for the longest time, we put so much importance in controlling data. And what we wanted to do is make sure within all of our organizations that we are as closely guarded as possible. And I think that's really failing our organizations. The era of data democracy really needs to end. And what we need to do is we need to actually enable every one of our organizations, from our campaign managers to the marketing managers to the executive team, so all of them can share in all of the data and insights that your team has. But you want to make sure that all of them are also being fed from one single version of the truth, one data repository that feeds all insights across all groups. Now you may look, this is as simple of an example as you can have. I mean, we have clients where there's like 17 different stakeholders that all have different kinds of KPIs. But when you look, each one of these particular roles exists in almost every one of the client businesses out there. You have a campaign manager who's solely focused on how my campaigns can perform better. Typically, channel focused. I'm a paid search person. I'm trying to make paid search work better. Then you have a marketing manager. Marketing manager cares about how paid search impacts display, or maybe how social is impacting paid search, or maybe how paid search and social can work together. Or they start looking more regionally instead of locally, or maybe they look globally. So when you start enabling that data, it's not intrinsically different than that campaign manager, though. The campaign manager is only looking at a very micro level. And then when you finally go to this big macro level, that's where your executive team comes in. What they care about most is operational effectiveness. How cheaply can we achieve the best results? Because it's profitability, it's ROI, it's operational effectiveness. So what we ultimately want to start driving, though, is this unified view where data-rich culture becomes the norm at every business we do. The end of Excel-based reporting, the kind of birth of actually focused on actual data-rich insights, because it doesn't matter if you have big data, small data, macro data, whatever. It's insights that matter. I mean, I've sat in companies before, and I'm just as guilty of this, is just collecting just huge amounts of data. And I really do nothing with it. So it's like, just because I have all of this valuable data, if I'm not activating it, then it's irrelevant. So one of our first case studies is for a campaign manager. So what we do is we actually take third-party data from all over the world, and we activate it in real time for our clients. Why that's important is by bringing in third-party data, it allows our campaign managers to be more effective. So I use an example from a global hotel chain. We pull in flight cancellations at an airport level in real time. So once flight cancellations get over a certain threshold, we upweight their paid search bids. We've seen a 600% revenue increase because we geo-target the airport and raise the bids. It's contextual marketing. It's in-the-moment marketing. It's also shared experience. You know those people are looking for hotels because they have no other option. Then you look at sports. You look at weather. So with weather, we had an always-on campaign for an EU retailer that was selling grills, right? And we had an always-on that just said, hey, buy a grill. Well, when we added the fact that after it became 18 degrees, that we said, can you believe it's hot outside? It's time to grill. That ad outperformed the always-on campaign by almost 300% when it came to conversions. Because all we did was talk to them. We talked to them in real time because the data that we were pulling in. All of these insights came because as our data teams worked with my campaign managers, we were pulling in different third-party data, looking for trends with our campaign managers. We weren't leaving them on an island. We were bringing them in and working together. Maybe? So, the marketing manager example. So this is an example of a global retailer that we do business with at Dentsu Aegis. So this client, they're in 86 markets. They're basically on every ad platform on the planet. We're pulling in 430 data sources every single day. We pull in a total of 456, but just not every day. The other 26 come in once a week. It's in every currency, so it's totally scaled. But what this campaign manager cared about was not the fact that we were able to pull in everything. To them, that was an expectation. They demand the fact that we have local-based reporting, regional-based reporting, global-based reporting. But what they wanted is they wanted cross-channel insights. So what we did is we designed the system on the left, which is an organic and paid search module that combines keyword-level detail from both channels, from organic and paid, and makes recommendations on how to better be more effective in both channels. So it might say, lower your paid search strategy because you're #1 ranked in that keyword here, and redirect it where you have no SEO rank on this keyword, but you're ranked 7th. We've seen huge results, 84% uplift for some of our clients using this system. We had another one here where we started with the Fusion system. We stopped focusing solely on channels. We wanted to focus on creative. We wanted to focus on campaign. So what we did with the Fusion system is we say, this campaign performed this way holistically across all channels. Because then what you might find is you might find that this particular campaign performed horribly on Facebook, but did tremendous in paid search. Or maybe it's a fantastic display campaign, but that's about it. When you actually bridge all of those systems together, you can start seeing where those trends are. And you might find that maybe in Brazil, Facebook for this campaign is the way to focus. But when you're not putting all those data sets together and looking at them side by side, you don't see the value. And that's where that data democracy really comes into play. You want to enable your people to make better decisions because profitability will go up. And then finally for the executive team. So for one of our clients, we were creating a 55-tab, manually creating it once a week, a 55-tab Excel document for them. It was a nightmare. So I worked with the team, and by automating the visual analytic process, we were able to reduce the time of reporting down by 90%, saving roughly 73 man-hours a week, which is great, because that 73 man-hours became innovation time, it became strategy time, it became finding insights in the data rather than looking at VLOOKUPs and formulas. because no one was ever checking the data. They were just checking to make sure their formulas were right because it's 55 tabs, right? So what they were able to do is that SEO console that I showed you earlier, that SEO and paid search console, actually came from the team that worked on this. Because they were able to start looking at all the channels saying, hey, do you think we can build a console that does this? We have an example. That's the kind of data democracy. That's why when you want to say, we want to bring you in, we don't want to be in an ivory tower like Carl and I were talking about. We don't want to sit on our data ivory tower like issuing proclamations about data. We want to be down in the trenches with everyone, trying to enable everyone across the organization. So in closing, when you look at every data set, look at every third-party enablement, look at everything you can do, but from the top down, segment the data, but make sure it's one constant, single version of the truth. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I like your data democracy analogy, but we all know that democracy works when the people and the societies are educated and prepared for it. So what do you do to prepare your clients to be able to take advantage of what you're delivering?
So what we found is, yeah, I have the headset on. I talk with my hands a lot, so I always make sure I wear a headset. What we found is basically, we sit down with a client and you have to simplify the message, right? They care more about the end outcome, not necessarily the journey it took to get there. So when you start looking at the overall visualization process, it's easily digestible, actionable end results. And when you do that, it's a very easy conversation. It also ceases to be emotional. You don't say, I feel we should do this because, hey, I think. It's, look at this data. This data is saying that we should do X. It's a very logical conversation. And we found that, at least within iProspect, the clients are far more willing to move forward with that when you actually have quantifiable metrics behind the decision. They're willing to shift budget, or they're willing to increase budget, or willing to actually turn off a channel altogether and shift it into another one. So it's a matter of just being patient, training, and then ultimately just trying to simplify it as much as possible to make it as easily digestible as possible.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Sean?
Okay, 20 minutes of people talking. It's time to stand up for a sec. I'm going to take a page out of Serge's playbook. So everybody, please stand up. And it's going to be 60 seconds. You're going to stand up with me because we're going to do something here real quick. Even with computers in hand. I love it. I love it. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for just a second, right? And I want, yeah, don't fall asleep. That's why I asked you to stand up. I want you to think of being on the beach, and you're looking out into the ocean, and you're seeing waves come in, and they're undulating in. And way out there, about 15, 16, 17 years ago, people like us in this room, people who are into data, into analytics, they were given their first computer as their first job. They were the people who did Excel. They handled the first databases and the Oracle systems, SAP, and all the nonsense that we've dealt with over the last 20 years. And you saw a wave. And that wave, people talked about that wave in 1998, 1999, 2000. And the wave kind of disappeared. You know, what the hell was that? But the rest of us, we had faith. You saw that wave coming in and getting bigger. And coming in about 2005, 2006, you saw the rise of Facebook. You saw the rise of Google. Amazon became a real powerful entity in the universe. Businesses 20 years ago that didn't exist are now top 20 market cap businesses. 5 years ago, all of a sudden, that wave for us became clear. It was right there, right in front of us. We could see how big this damn thing was. Huge, humongous. And we started surfing. Everybody take your surfing pose. You're on that wave. We're surfing. We're like, data and analytics, it's coming. It's going to change the world. We got tools. We got people. We got everything we need. And we're surfing that thing. And we're thinking, marketers, here we come. Here we come. We're going to change the world. This is the end of old and spreadsheets. No 85 tabbers. We're taking and changing the way we do analytics. We're going to take it out of the back room, bring it to the front room. We're going to change everything. And we're there. It's 2015, and we're surfing that wave, and we are over the top of the beach now. we are over the top of the beach. If you're looking from where you are, that wave is right there. 2015, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, sit down, because I want to give you another perspective. This is the part we have to talk about. This is the part we have to overcome. I think I need a clicker. Who has that thing? No worries. Okay, so this is the reality. Okay, if I can get it right. Okay, you see that wave? That's our tidal wave. That's what you've been surfing for years and years and years. In 2015, that damn thing is hitting the beach like nobody's business. You see that guy right there? That's your average marketer. And he's waving at you like this. Hey, looking away from the wave, by the way. He doesn't see it. He's like, hey, my shoes are getting wet. This is cool. Puddles to play in. This is great. Little bit of waves. You know, I can do this media stuff, this digital. It's so cool. I put ads out there, and instead of like TV, I can do it on different channels. Multi-channel. Wow, this is cool. Meanwhile, we're up there on top of that wave. We're coming down on these people. The simple fact is that your average marketer, how many average marketers are in this room right now? How many average marketers are coming to San Sebastian to talk about data and analytics? Anybody? Can you raise your hand if you're, got one, two? You're not average marketers, you're here. You are the people who have just turned around and been like, wow, this thing's gonna change everything. Let's start paddling, okay? What I'm gonna talk to you about is dealing with that a little bit. How do we actually start approaching this problem? I've been in the middle of this kind of building my own ark. You know, I'm like Noah, I'm building my ark, and I'm like, come on, marketers, get on, 2 by 2, we'll get to the digital age. And they're like, oh no, this is so much better standing over here, right? The first things that we need to talk about are what not to talk about. And it's going to be kind of, given that I've watched the last 2 days of presentations, and fantastic presentations, by the way. I've been really blown away by the stuff that we're seeing, the possibilities that you're bringing to the table, the level of communication and the storytelling. So I don't want anybody to take the next simplistic stuff that I'm going to put in front of you as, oh shit, I knew that. I knew all about that. I want you to take it as the person who's standing at the bottom of that wave, that's where they are. Okay, so the first thing, the first thing is that's freaking crazy. I'm at a data and analytics party. How can I say something like this? You know what it sounds like when you talk to a marketer about data? It sounds like 400,000 million data and reports, and they go, okay, yeah, that sounds pretty good. How much did that cost? You know. Okay, ROIs, yeah, whatever. Okay. This is our reality. So the second you realize it's not about the data, that it's about other things, the impact that you're going to bring, and you work backwards, because there's a simple fact. The marketers today, if you look at the leadership, if you look at the typical marketer who's running a place like Unilever, a country, a senior category, a VP of something, those guys are average 40-plus years old. The day that they showed up to their job, they still didn't have a computer on their desk. Most of the leaders inside my company didn't even use Excel, ever. You know, the day I showed up at my first consulting firm, they gave me 2 computers, one for the database. I had some Fox Pro. I had Fox Pro on one side, and I had Lotus Notes on the other. Ooh, yeah, Lotus Notes. I am that old. I know I look young. But that was day one. These guys, and a lot of people, have been avoiding this whole thing for the last 10, 15 years. They're in a different place. So when you talk to them, you have to talk about the business and the impact. And we've had a few very good examples the last few minutes here of impact, and you guys have been tremendous talking about impact. So it's not a criticism or anything else. It's a simple, universal truth. If you talk about the impact, then you can tell them as much as they can handle about the data. I'm going to tell you a little funny. I hope I don't get too much trouble for this. I was sitting with Paul Pullman, the CEO of Unilever. And we're showing him data and analytics. And we're like, and people data, and we're going to change the world, and digital. And he looked over at me, and he goes, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but you seem very passionate, so I think you should continue. Right? Now, quite honestly, that's more people than he just said it to me, so, he's a very frank Dutchman. But most people are thinking the exact damn thing. They are thinking, I'm not exactly sure, but something is out there, and I'm getting wet, so maybe we should go along with this. Focus on the impact, focus on the insights, and the question. Make it business-led. Make the business define what your analytics and what your data are, and don't tell them about it. Don't tell them about it. They don't want to hear about coefficients and Bayesian modeling and how you took 400 bazillion gigabytes of data and 400 spreadsheets and you put it into this thing and it piled out and it said 30 million. They just want to know 30 million, and they want to know how fast and how soon and how quick. So focus on that. 3 ways to get there, all right? 1, be clear and simple. Clear and simple. Clear and simple. I don't know how many times I can say that to our partners, our agencies, our analytics people, the analysts on my own team. Clear and simple wins over incredibly brilliant, rigorous, data-driven, fantastical charts with 42 bar graphs. It always wins. And I'm going to show you a few just simple things and see if I can bring home the truth. Second thing here is tell stories. Ladies and gentlemen, the power of storytelling kicks butt on every PowerPoint slide you've ever done. If the slide doesn't tell a story, then don't show it. Just like you don't say, don't look at the graph or the chart, but I'll tell you a story. Then don't show the graph or the chart. Just tell the story. Engage people emotionally. Because quite honestly, I know we're very analytic and we're very data-oriented and a lot of maths and sciences and stats and so on and so forth. But human beings just don't operate that way every day. We just don't. Read any book you want on EQ. It trumps our IQ in daily decision-making millions of times over because we do it all subconsciously. And emotion is the #1 thing that will stimulate people to think and think differently and have impact in the world. And lastly, business-led. I can't emphasize that enough. I'm going to show you a quick example of where I'm going with business-led, but business-led. Let the business tell you where the analytics should be. I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to show you quick examples. The London Underground. Does anybody recognize this map? Well, it's the London Underground, but this is the geographical-based one. Imagine if you were the first timer from out of town, from China or something, you go up and you look at the London Underground map and it looks like this. And you go, where the hell am I going to go? You compare it to this, factually incorrect, geographically wrong. Lines are moved out of proportion to the previous page. It is wrong. It is wrong on every front. But this works. Ladies and gentlemen, this is clearer, simpler, better, and it changes the analytics face from what is reality to something human beings understand. These are simple ways to get across messaging. This is one of the best things I think that there is for a situation like this. Now, one of my partners, Rick, he actually presented this slide yesterday, and he told you about the models and the data and how we got there, and God, I don't even know all the stuff he was saying. Some of it I don't even understand sometimes. R programming, data discovery, tools, SAS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I presented to the 16 leaders of Unilever to get my funding for 2015. I didn't present any of that. I presented this. When people talk about our brands very positively, our sales go up. And that's kind of cool. But you know what? You know what that means? It means I can tell you tomorrow whether your advertising is working. I can tell you whether X Factor on TV today worked by tomorrow. I can tell you whether it went up or down and approximately how much of your sales that impacted. That's it. A lot of more money, please. Thank you. okay? Now I'm going to tell you another brief story because I'm getting near the end of my time. But the other thing is realize that our marketers and our brand people and our business people, they don't even know the right questions to ask at this moment. Our brand people are from Ben & Jerry's. They're like, there are so many clear things that we already know. Okay, we already know that ice cream, impulse category. We already know that, you know, our sales are seasonal. We already know that when it rains, people buy more ice cream. These are facts. These are God-given truths, ladies and gentlemen. We would never ask questions about these things. What I want to know is, does price matter to my consumers, you know, because I'm pricing up and down every day, and do they talk about it? Do they care? Well, we looked at it. It doesn't take a statistician to notice that the bottom line is price, the top line is people talking about Ben & Jerry's. I don't think we need a correlation model here to tell that there's no correlation. People just don't. But what do they talk about now? That's an interesting question. Okay? What they talk about is they talk about eating Ben & Jerry's, right? They talk about being in bed with their loved one, watching a movie, talk about on Saturday it's going to rain, so I'm going to stay in and watch the Star Wars trilogy for the 7th time, right? They talk about this. This is what they talk about, and we have 75% of all the mentions about Ben & Jerry's are actually about eating the ice cream in different scenarios, different situations. Well, if you put that side by side with something like sales, hey, I'm doing an analysis, but does this analysis look like I picked regular sales? I want everybody to give me, does this analysis look like it came out of an R dashboard? Hell no, because if I show you the R dashboard, there's so much noise visually that I can't get it across, get the thing across, and people are trying to put their finger on every single dip and dap. But the reality is, people buy ice cream on Friday and Saturday, and they talk about it on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Simple fact. High correlations, everything else. And what do they talk about? They talk about weather and what they're going to do on Saturday. Therefore, it's actually something that is a predetermined purchase, not an impulse purchase. Okay? So what I've just done, in simplest terms, and there's a lot more you could do with this, and you guys have given 100 examples of what you could do with this kind of information. You have great tools to do it, is look, there's a lot of money to be made simply by doing our advertising digitally on Thursdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. Stop advertising on Mondays and Tuesdays. People just don't buy Ben & Jerry's. And when you're going to do it, look at the weather patterns, because we looked at the weather patterns that conveyed them to the sales. Look at the weather patterns and decide, is it forecast for sun or rain? And then put your digital advertising accordingly and look at your geographical bend. Already in place, simple to execute, crystal clear, storytelling with an ending. And dollars, more dollars. They love dollars. They always, well, euros, dollars, pounds, whatever it might be. Lastly, I'm going to talk about this with my final time's up. How I've struggled with this for years and years, and I know in the agency side, you guys struggle with it, and I also know as a small company coming into a large company, how do you deal with this? Brands have no understanding of what you're talking about. I won't say no understanding. I'm sure they have some understanding. They have ideas about what they want, but they really don't know how to ask for it. They really don't know exactly how it works. You can go and you can consult with them. I think your idea of being in with them, finding out exactly what they want and they're talking about it is good. If you're going to market to those folks, that's a hard sell. The distance between you and them is very far. We need people in the middle that act as translation. And in this case, what I call it is a storefront. You need people, both in your agency side, in your small companies, in our side, that actually act as translators and influencers with business people that live and work with them every day. And all of that other stuff, the data and everything else, don't talk about it. It's not relevant to people. As a supplier, what I'm most interested in, as a Unilever, I'm interested in from you as a supplier, what can I show and demonstrate value in my storefront? When I put it up on the shelf and I say, okay, we got a nice piece of analytics here that goes out and it identifies all the consumers out there with attribution, with a big attribution model, and we have a tool that does that and brings it to you. I don't want my marketers, this is a little bit of mythology that I've heard a lot of the last 2 days. My marketers are not going to be running attribution models in the next 3 to 5 years. They just aren't. I can't even get them to open email, guys. All right? I mean, seriously, we're talking about a whole different level of what they're going to do and not do. You need partners in the business that help you do it. You need to put people there that help them do it. And we need to bridge the gap between marketers and their day job, which is very, very busy, and the actual translation of analytics into action and insight. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I have a question for all of you guys. In the financial industry, the decision-making of stock buying, for instance, is more and more given to automated real-time machines. To which extent do you think that automated real-time decision will take over the human decisions in business matters?
Yeah, I can answer it to you.
So I actually think that there's a little bit of a, I'll call it a misnomer. This question is actually rigged. The rigging goes like this. It assumes that all we do is exactly the same stuff over and over again. What we know in this room is that we're going to do so much more stuff that we aren't doing today. And yeah, that'll be taken over by more and more AI, more and more automated systems, more and more program buying. I completely agree with that. It will free the marketer up to do different things around creative, around brand essence and building brand equity, around how a brand responds to other human beings, which, quite honestly, in the AI world, I think it's decades away. Anybody in here might argue with me. But there's a role for AI to take on things that we aren't doing, and the human being will take on other responsibilities that will make brand and brand management more dynamic and more authentic than it ever has been before.
Is this one on or is this one on? Okay. I agree completely, and I think that when you start looking at automation, we do a tremendous amount of automation at iProspect, and when you actually start looking, a lot of the triggers that are set up are created by humans. So the more that we become automated, the more it becomes, programmatic and extends, to a full kind of programmatic suite. What it will really return back to the marketers is kind of this age of discovery, where rather than going out and managing your day-to-day campaigns, that's going to be done by these automated systems. But what it's going to allow you to do is to really start seeking out new opportunities to extend into areas that you've never worked in before. Look for new third-party data to enable. Look into new channels. Look into real-time content or dynamic creative and things that your business has never done before, because you're not spending your time doing the monotonous task of campaign management that we do every single day. And we've already seen that, but again, I still think we're years away. I know we kind of talked about this before, but we're still years away from that, but I think it's becoming more and more relevant, where these contextual-based marketing going down to that audience of one, where we're able to automate that ad and make it as contextually relevant as possible, will just ultimately just lead to more creative marketing decisions.
Yeah, it's a great question, because it depends on what the decision is. And if we look from an agency perspective, we have a lot of information, a lot of experiences across many different types of clients and different industries and geographies. And our challenge is to somehow harness all of that information, all of that data, all those experiences into something useful. As Sean discussed, in a storefront, that's exactly the approach we're taking, is to try to remove the complexity. Data can be a huge distraction, honestly. We're trying to remove that and replace it with stories and other capabilities that really lead to this decision-making process. We're seeing a huge change in the way decisions are made, both in terms of investing. Which tools? Is it a buying platform? Is it third-party data? Is it people? We're a people business. We have some of the most amazing creative minds in the world. A lot of the decisions we're making are around how do we optimize their time, and that leads directly to where we're investing in terms of tools and other capabilities.
So yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think that not only are we going to increasingly see automation within specific ad management platforms, but also we'll increasingly see automation between ad management platforms, because the flows that you have to execute to actually execute a buy today are complex, not only because you have to handle so many variables, but because you have to handle so many ad management platforms. And having sort of one part of your buy processed in one platform and then the other and sort of managing that flow automatically, I think it's also something that we're going to see more of in the future.
Before we take one question in the room, I have one question for you, Sean. How do you leverage this data in your relationship with retailers, and does it change the balance of power between you and them?
So just a history lesson if anybody doesn't know this fact. Retailers for the last 20 years, since the rise of POS systems, the rise of the consumer card, has really owned the consumer. They have more information about the consumer than most marketing companies, with all your tracking and all your survey work and all the stuff that you do. What this is bringing forward, this revolution, and why it's in the storefront, the middle of the business, and not out in the backyard somewhere like it has been for a lot of years with regular analytics, is because it changes the balance of power between marketing and brand and retailers in the understanding of consumers. We're now in an all-out sprint to understand the consumer better. This is a dramatic shift in how we are able to work with one another, what we each bring to the table, and ultimately who owns the consumer over the longer term. Okay. Oh, time's up.
Can we just take one question from the audience, because we are short in time? Any question?
Great. Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you.
I know, we were
This
so
was a
informative.
terrific panel. So how do you make commercial business decisions? Focus on business impact. I think that's clear.